From Channel 5 New York, this is a Fox News Update.
Good evening at 10 tonight. The accused shooter in the Bensonhurst case is roughed up in jail. Fat Cat Nichols' mother is involved in a deal that could finger the man behind Officer Burns' murder. Your phone calls led to the capture of one of America's most wanted, a suspected hitman. Actor George Hamilton says he's just friends with Imelda Marcos, but the feds may call it something else. And you decide, should Davy Johnson be dumped as the Mets manager? We have Daryl's answer. See you at 10. Coming up next, the accused gunman in the Bensonhurst case was injured in jail.
Cindy Garvey, the ex-wife of Steve Garvey, has been thrown in jail.
George Hamilton is denying he had anything to do wrong with Imelda Marcos.
And you decide, should Davy Johnson be fired as Mets manager?
See you soon.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
From WNYW Fox Channel 5 in New York, this is the 10 o'clock news with John Rowland and Cora Ann Mahalik.
Good evening. The young man accused of firing the shots that killed Yusuf Hawkins is nursing a puffed-up face, despite the fact he's in protective custody. Officials are checking as to just how it happened inside of a city jail. Jeff Weiser reports.
The New York City Corrections Department has begun an investigation into what exactly may have happened to Joey Fama here on Thursday night. The Corrections Department does admit Fama was injured in an incident involving a corrections officer, but won't elaborate other than to say that Fama received swelling under his right eye. There was no comment at the Fama Bensonhurst residence tonight, but a source familiar with the family says Fama supposedly got an elbow in the face from one of the guards. Joey Fama was thrust into the public eye on August 16th when a young black man by the name of Yusuf Hawkins walked into Bensonhurst to look at a used car. He ran into a group of angry white youths, and 4 shots rang out. Hawkins died that night, and Joey Fama, who was later accused of the shooting, fled. Fama was on the run for more than 2 weeks, while the city was rocked by demonstrations that pointed up what racial tensions and strife were being felt. Finally, on August 31st, he surrendered to upstate New York police in Oneonta, who brought him back to New York City for arraignment. He pleaded not guilty and is being held without bail. Fox News recently learned that one of Fama's co-defendants fingered him as the trigger man. But unless that co-defendant becomes a witness for the state, that confession might not be admissible. Now we hear that Fama has been involved with some sort of violence in jail. We've learned that it happened somewhere between the shower and Fama's cell Thursday night, just before lights out at 11 p.m. He was taken to a doctor right afterwards, and officials say he was not seriously injured.
Joey Fama is still trying to get out of jail. He'll have a bail hearing this Wednesday, but getting out of this place may not be so easy. Fama was denied bail just last week by a judge who said the government had a good case against him. From the Brooklyn House of Detention, Jeff Weiser, Fox News, Channel 5.
Luis Bologna will be trading his Yankee pinstripes for prison stripes soon. In Milwaukee, the outfielder was sentenced to 60 days in jail and must pay $10,000 to a center for sexual assault victims. That's his penalty for having sex with a 15-year-old girl during a Yankee road trip. The 24-year-old ball player called the whole sordid episode an innocent mistake.
And I'm really sorry for it. I'm a human being, and anybody can make the same mistake I made. I'm really sorry for it.
Bologna is free until Wednesday. He'll be told then where he'll serve his time. His attorney argued that the jail term may ruin his client's future. Bologna's visa from the Dominican Republic will expire soon, and he may have to leave the country.
Well, it's looking more and more like Fat Cat Nichols is ready to make that deal to give authorities the man behind Officer Ed Burns' murder. A sure sign was what happened when Fat Cat's mother showed up in court. Eric Shawn reports.
This little old lady in the poncho raised a notorious drug kingpin. She is Louise Coleman, the mother of Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols, the convicted drug dealer whose empire came crashing down after the assassination of police officer Edward Byrne. Byrne was allegedly murdered on the orders of Nichols' lieutenant, Howard Pappy Mason. But now sources say Nichols has secretly cut a deal with federal prosecutors to testify against Mason and possibly win leniency for his 72-year-old mother and his girlfriend, who are also charged with drug counts. In court, Mrs. Coleman quietly pleaded guilty to allowing her son to run drugs out of a South Jamaica deli she owned. But the guilty plea stood in contrast to what she told me just moments before. In the courtroom hallway, she said, "I never did nothing. I never had my hands on no drugs in my life." Her lawyer, former Queens Assemblyman David Cohen, refused to elaborate. Once Fat Cat's own lawyer, Cohen, has been dogged by a report that prosecutors are probing him for possible money laundering and drug illegalities. Assistant U.S. Attorney Leslie Caldwell denied that report, calling it inaccurate and not correct.
You think somebody was shooting into your house, ma'am?
Well, somebody did something. It didn't start from nowhere but that window.
Fat Cat's mother has seen 2 of her children fall to the evils of drugs. In May of last year, her 48-year-old wheelchair-bound daughter, Fat Cat's sister, burned to death when the Nichols home was firebombed and shot at. Police believe the attack was a message to Fat Cat from rival drug gangs.
They should go to jail and deal with him. Huh? Go up there and deal with him, not me.
Fat Cat's mother has left the streets of South Jamaica and now lives in Alabama, where she could return while she awaits her sentencing. She faces up to 20 years behind bars, but with the U.S. Attorney's Office not taking a position on how much jail time she should get, it seems the price of Fat Cat's cooperation will be to keep his mother out of jail. At Brooklyn Federal Court, I'm Eric Shawn, Fox News, Channel 5.
President Bush and Egyptian President Mubarak met trying to get stalled Mideast peace talks going again. The administration played down the meeting, saying there's only a chance for progress. Both leaders agreed the next step must be a dialogue between the Israelis and the Palestinians. That has been very difficult to do. Mubarak has put forward a 10-point plan that includes a freeze on Israeli settlements in the West Bank. At the Pentagon, Defense Secretary Dick Cheney entertained his counterpart from the Kremlin. Soviet Defense Minister Dmitry Yazov is the first Russian defense chief to visit the U.S. He and Cheney talked about military budgets and troop cuts. Yazov is expected to be here for 6 days. He'll travel to military bases around the country. Yazov is scheduled to make a stop at the historic Gettysburg battlefield in Pennsylvania because of his interest in our Civil War.
George Hamilton says he's just good friends with Imelda Marcos, and he's standing by her despite all her legal troubles. Christopher Jones reports, though, that Hamilton's name might be on some of those legal documents, and who knows what tune we might be hearing.
I'll be left with you always.
You are listening to the dulcet tones of that famous chanteuse, Imelda Marcos. And while this particular selection did not rocket to the top of the charts, it was the subject of some speculation that when she sang Always, she was not thinking so much of her late husband Ferdinand as a man with a perpetual tan, actor George Hamilton.
I will understand always, always.
Hamilton and Mrs. Marcos have denied long-standing gossip they were romantically involved, but if it weren't for the tan, you might see that George is a bit red-faced over the latest allegation of a link. This time, the actor's name shows up on federal court documents naming Hamilton as one of scores of unindicted co-conspirators in the government's criminal case against the former Philippine First Lady. That indictment concerns allegations that the Marcoses stole at least $168 million from the Philippine Treasury, money they allegedly spent to acquire huge holdings of real estate in the United States, as well as art and lots of shoes for Mrs. Marcos. Government prosecutors would not say why Hamilton is on the list of unindicted co-conspirators, and Hamilton's agent says the actor has no idea why either. He has previously denied the Marcoses invested in his estate in Beverly Hills. Earlier in this decade, Hamilton bought Charlie Chaplin's former home in Beverly Hills for a little more than $1 million. In just a couple of years, that house had remarkably increased, and he used the new value to get a loan from an offshore bank. That bank allegedly had ties with the Marcoses. Little more is known about the Hamilton-Marcos relationship, except that George Hamilton is reported to be extremely upset by this whole matter. Christopher Jones, Fox News, Channel 5.
All right, coming up next, the Yonkers desegregation case set off a shouting match on the steps of the Supreme Court.
Steve Garvey's ex-wife Cindy is in some big trouble with the law tonight.
Maurice German's trying to get on the Freedom trains to start new lives in the West. And Jim Baker says he never said that he wanted all the money he got from the PTL.
And Bill Cosby's daughter says life at home was no sitcom.